Welcome. Hey, what do you get when you take the book of Acts and Photoshop and you mash them together? My happy place. That's right. So welcome to my happy place. It is Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. It's time to live stream Drawing with the Bible. I'm Steve Thomason, and I'm really glad that you're here with me. So every Thursday afternoon, I go live and just invite you into my studio and to do a little painting. So today we're going to open up Photoshop and we're going to look at page 15. Before I go any further with that, let me just show you the progress that I've made. Now, here's the thing. I have a goal every week of doing completing 5 pages of Cartoonist Guide to the Bible. So let me switch over here to Cartoonist Guide to the Bible online, and it's cartoonistbible.com. You can check that out anytime. And now usually when I say how to look at the pages, I give you the shortcut. You hover over Explore Bible and then you go click on Acts. But let me show you a more funner way. Is that how you say it? A more funner way? A fun way. This is my interactive Bible bookshelf, and every one of the books of the Bible is independently linked here in this visual bookshelf, and also each bookshelf is a genre, and you can click on these balloons on the side if you want to explore the genre. So we're looking at the book of Acts. So right here you can see there's one book. So the shelf and the genre are one and the same thing. So if you click on that, that's just another way to navigate, showing you the goods here. So let's go down. I have completed pages 1 through 10. That was the last 2 weeks. This week, my big goal was to complete 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Well, I'm happy to say I have completed 4 of those pages so far. So let's just look real quick. And by the way, if you're online and you want to drop a chat, let me know that you're here. That'd be awesome. And if you have any questions while we're going along, feel free to shout out, ask your question, or if you just want to sit back and enjoy the process, that's awesome too. So this is page 11, where we've got, we saw that Stephen was killed in the end of chapter 7, and the persecution broke out and it spread. So we've got Stephen is buried, they're mourning Stephen. Saul comes along, starts arresting people, dragging them out of their homes. Meanwhile, Philip heads out to Samaria and he's healing people. There's great signs and wonders going on. But previously in the region of Samaria, there was this guy named Simon the Great, who was, he called himself Simon the Great. He was a magician, and the people thought that he was the power of God that is called great. But when Philip comes into town, starts preaching about the good news of Jesus, Simon was actually baptized, and he thought that was pretty awesome. Then Peter and John come from Jerusalem, and the Holy Spirit had not yet come on them. So they lay hands on the people, and whoosh, the Spirit shows up. And Simon thinks that's amazing. So he goes and he asks if he can buy that kind of power from Peter and John. They're like, dude, you're missing the point. And he said, pray for me. So Peter and John, they head back from Samaria to Jerusalem. So that is page 11. Then we come to page 12, and we see the angel, a messenger of the Lord, tells Philip, head down toward the road to Ethiopia, to Egypt, and go to that chariot. And there is an Ethiopian eunuch there reading the scroll of Isaiah. Philip explains from the Hebrew scripture that Jesus is the Messiah, and the eunuch's like, whoa, there's water, why can't I be baptized? Philip's like, I don't know, why not? So poosh, he baptizes him. And then it says that Philip was caught up and taken to Azotus. That is page 12. So now we go to page 13, and back in Jerusalem, Saul is plotting to arrest and kill the disciples of the way. He gets papers to go up to the northern city of Damascus. He makes his way up, and on his way, he encounters the risen Christ on the road to Damascus. And he stands up and he can't see. So his friends lead him into Damascus, and he's just sitting there waiting in the dark. And page 14, this is the page that I colored this morning. Actually, I colored that one this morning and this one this morning. We have Ananias sitting around waiting. God says, go to Saul. He's like, what? That guy's trying to kill me. Go anyway. Ananias lays hands on Saul. Boosh! The things drop off his eyes like scales, and he can see. And Saul is baptized. I painted that one like finished. I loaded that like literally half an hour ago. So now my final page for this week, because my goal is to do 5 pages a week. My final goal for this week is to color this page, page 15, where we have, oh, and my music's playing, sweet. So sit back, because when I get in the zone, I might not be talking. So let me put this down. And now my layout here, you can see down in the left-hand corner, you can see my real hands on the Cintiq. This is a Cintiq 16. It's a wonderful device. It's nice and small, sits on my small desk in my home studio. And I'm painting in Photoshop here. So this is what happens. My wife, Lana, who is a wonderful person and a great help to me in so many ways, she takes the document after I have inked it, and she comes in and she does these block colors for me, which saves me a ton of time. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's see how much we can get done of this page in this hour session here. So I've got each panel is its own group. So you can see in Photoshop, you've got lots of you can just create almost infinite number of layers, but not infinite, of course, but as many layers as you really need. And so what I do is each panel of the comic book is its own group of layers. And then within each group are multiple layers. And so what I want to do is hide all the word balloons, because I don't need to look at those. Panel 1 is just the box around it. Then I have a layer this is my inking layer. So let me zoom in on this, because this is what I'm going to color right now. So I just take one panel at a time. And so I've got the background layer is one solid color. So like if I get rid of the ink layer, I have a front color, which is the people in the front, and I've got the back color, which is the people in the background, and then I've got this solid color layer. So I need my ink. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to choose this panel in the background, and if you come up here, click this, it's called the alpha lock, and what that does is it makes it so you can only paint on pixels that exist. So it kind of masks out this whole layer right here. So I'm just going to paint on that, and now I'm going to paint the interior of Saul. He still goes by Saul at this point in the story. Saul is he's in Damascus, and so let's see, I'm in an interior here, and I think what I want to do is I take this solid brush and I just start blocking in colors. We put the color layer here, and I don't care about like this pillar right here. I'll come in and block that in a little bit later. Let's see. And choose colors. Again, if you're watching this live and you want to drop a question in the box, feel free to do that. All right. So that, make that pillar. Well, actually, I should have matched that color with this wall. So what I'm doing right now is just choosing what we call local colors that are, I don't care about shading right now. I'm just getting solid blocks of color. And my thought right now is to make the planes match different planes. So the floor is this color. Okay. Now my ceiling, I want to take this color and just make it a little darker for my ceiling. Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a skylight. So this domey shape up here, I'm going to make that the light source, because I think that'll just be interesting. Now I could mark this out and like use my lasso tool and create this whole shape and do a nice solid color, but I actually like doing it with the brush because then it gives me a little bit of texture. You can see the brush strokes a little bit. I just think that's interesting. All right. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I can see I've got some people online. Let me know who you are. Just drop a shout in the chat. Hopefully my chat is working. I think I can see the chat. Okay. So I have the basic. Sandy Olson, it's hard to move between digital art and physical painting or drawing, and which do you prefer? Oh, that's a great question, Sandy. And thanks again, Sandy, for being here. I've been making that switch back and forth between digital art and, physical art for a long time. And I don't find it that hard. Which do I prefer? It depends. For stuff like this, for illustration, I absolutely prefer digital, because with digital, I can, any art that is ultimately going to be produced and printed, it's going to have to be digitized at some point anyway. So I figure, why not just create it digitally? And I just have so much freedom when I paint digitally, because I'm not afraid of making mistakes, because I can always undo, Okay, so what I've got now is I put, whoops, see, there's a great example. I just hit Control Z and undo that mistake that I just made, because I wasn't paying attention and I put a big blob of brown right in the middle of my window. So I'm imagining that this up here is like the window. So I'm going to put just a little bit of sky color just faintly in the side of it, like that. And then I'm going to do some magic. Yeah. So I'm going to first of all select the pixels. So now I've just selected this square, and I'm going to come up here above the incline, and I'm going to take a solid brush. I'm going to fill this in with a solid white. Well, it's kind of a pale blue because that's the sky color. But then I'm going to change the layer to add. And do a blur over it and give a little glow around that window, which is pretty cool. I'm going to choose an airbrush. Make my airbrush really big. And just kind of set the lighting scheme there. So that's pretty cool. And then I come back down to my, I'm going to turn this music down just a little bit. Let's see. Now I'm going to come to back to this brush. Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to create another layer, create a clipping mask around that layer, and make this a multiply layer, and use my airbrush. And multiply makes things darker. Just give a little bit of depth. Like maybe throw a shadow behind this pillar a little bit. And maybe I'll throw in a little bit of blue just to cool down those shadows a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take the back color and do an alpha lock on that, and choose this brush, and we're going to zoom in on Sol, go back to my base color, and do local color on the character. I'm actually going to turn off my, I'm going to call this one light so I don't forget which one. I'm going to turn off my light for a minute and just do some local colors. Like that. I was so excited this week because I'm on schedule. I will finish this page today, which means I have all day tomorrow to do other work that I have to get done, which is exciting. My flow so far has been I lay out and ink all the pages on Monday, and that takes maybe 3/4 of my day on Monday to get all that done. And then on Tuesday I come into the office on campus, and like this Tuesday I had 2 pages that I had to ink, so I did that in the morning. But then Lana works right here on this device and does all the blocking in for me, and then I do other work on campus. I'm working on 3 other courses, or 2 other courses that I'm working on right now. So I just work in the office on Tuesday and have meetings and whatever I need to do on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, she has most of the pages blocked out for me. And so yesterday, I didn't have any meetings yesterday. It was fantastic. And so I was able to come in and I painted 2 pages yesterday. They were pretty complicated pages. And then this morning I was able to paint 2 more pages. So I had 4 pages done before I even got to this live stream. So it's pretty exciting. By the end of workday today, Thursday, I will have met my weekly goal. Yay! So that tomorrow I can really focus in on other projects that I'm working on. So that's cool. All right, so this is local color for Saul. Make his eyes just a little bit. Okay, and then I just kind of randomly choose different local color for the clothing of these characters in the background, because they're not characters that will repeat. Sandy, to your previous question about which I prefer, I like to do traditional art. I like to make paintings with oil and or like if I go plein air painting outside, I use gouache paint. But I like to do oil painting. I like to do pen and ink in my sketchbook. Like to do figure drawing with charcoal. But it's nice to have physical paintings. I have them all over my house. I've sold a few paintings. Some people have commissioned me to do paintings over the years. That's always fun. But the big project I'm working on as a freelancer right now is I'm actually doing an animated film for a customer. And that's super fun. Didn't work on that at all last week because I was traveling last week and I just didn't have time to work on my freelance work. Because my first priority is getting this stuff done. Okay, let's see. I can go crazy down here because these foreground characters have their own layer. Got a little carried away and got into his beard there. Okay, so local color in the background is done. Now I'm going to come up here to the front color, hit alpha lock. I usually do the hair first. See how nice that is, just being able to not worry about going outside the lines, because Lana has done the work of masking these out for me, and I have it on alpha lock. Oh, I forgot to do his beard. I can make the brush bigger, and I just have a block like that. All right. Oh yeah, I want to give this guy standard brown tunic. This is kind of my color for the commoner tunic, if you will. Let's make this one contrast that background guy just a little bit more. Just a bit, just a skosh. Okay. Let me turn my light back on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take, create a new layer, create a clipping mask, and make this layer multiply. Choose my soft airbrush, and then I can just start blocking in really simple shading, just to give the characters a little bit of dimension. Not going crazy with it, just enough to make them not flat. And then I'm using multiply because it's pretty cool, because I'm actually choosing exactly the same color, but the multiply feature just makes it darken underneath. So I don't have to, it's just a really simple way to do basic shading without getting too worried about your colors. And I don't know, maybe it's a lazy way to do it, I don't know, but it's a trick that I picked up along the way and I like it and I'm using it. If I hit the letter I, it chooses the eyedropper, and then because I'm on multiply, it just automatically makes it darker. And the more I go over it, the darker it gets. That's the multiply part of it. Okay, so I've got basic, oh, I need to do Sol. So we have a overhead light source. So all my shadows are going to be coming down from above. So you just want to put basic shadows under the brow, under the nose, under the top lip, under the head, and by placing the shadows in the right spot, it tells your viewer where your light's coming from. Because one of the key components of art, especially in representational art, which even though this is cartooning, it is still representational in the sense that I want my cartoons to seem like they live in real space. Light and shadow is a huge part of rendering something to make it look three-dimensional. I need to come down here to this, put in a shadow underneath. Whoops, that doesn't look good. All right, so now on top of that layer, I need to do another clipping mask. And this one's going to be an overlay layer. I'm going to choose that light color. Oops. And do the rim lighting. Now we need to do the same thing with the front color. We're going to create a clipping mask, go to multiply, start with the skin tones. Everybody, if you're watching live, welcome. We're just painting today, painting in Photoshop. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. If not, or if you just want to say hi, love to know that you're out there. Otherwise, just sit back and enjoy the process. Super simple. Doing some lights and shadows here so that my characters are not flat. I don't like my cartoon characters. I don't like flat. Some people love flat. Awesome. I don't. I like a little bit of dimension and a little bit of texture. For example, these closer up characters, I like to grab a watercolor brush and maybe put a little texture in their clothing, because that's way more interesting. Okay, so now I just need to put clipping mask, go to overlay, choose a light color, back to, I also like to use a more opaque for some of these rim lights. Just give my highlights a little bit of texture for the close-up ones. But it's still in an overlay, so it gives it a little bit of a glowing effect to it. And then I'll come in with the airbrush. Just kind of hit it in the highlight spots a little bit more. Okay, So let's zoom out. Let's turn our light back on. So that, see what that light does? It's kind of cool. Let me see. Does it look better if I bring down the opacity just a tad? Oops, wrong one. I need to be on my light layer. If I bring down that opacity just a tad. Yeah, just like that. So the difference between that and this, see, that just softens it, kind of gives it a cool glow, and it brings those foreground characters out a little bit. Yeah, I think that works. Cool. All right, we got one panel down. So let's bring back the word balloons. Now you think, why did I spend all that time painting that guy when it's just covered up? Well, here's why. Because when I go to produce this for PowerPoint, there will be a slide that has just this word balloon on it with Saul saying Jesus is the Son of God. And I want there to be a slide where you see these two characters interacting with each other, even though in the final book they won't be seen in the final book, but they will be seen in the PowerPoint. So that's why. So I think about those things. All right. I need to save, and I need to take a drink of water. So we got one panel painted. Let's dive into this second panel. So, okay. We have a similar thing going on to this first panel, but it's not exactly the same angle, so I can't just copy and paste it. But what I can do is choose some of the colors. So if I come over here and turn the light off, then I can choose some local colors for, let's choose this for the ceiling. Come down here to panel 2, background, make sure my alpha lock is on, and my so that ceiling, what's happening here? Why can I not see that? Oh, that's because Lana made this all the same. So what I'm going to do is use my magic wand, and I'm going to select that color, cut it, paste it in place, bring it back here, and then I'm going to merge it. Whoops. I'm going to merge down into this back. Okay, now we're good. Now it'll work. So that'll be my ceiling. And my wall. I need to make this wall come up like that. There we go. Need to get rid of this layer. Yikes. make this just slightly different to distinguish it from the back one. Okay, so, and then just a little tiny bit of that showing through, just to kind of connect it to the one before. All right, we will do lighting from above in a little bit. So I just want to do, my back color is there. So if I alpha lock that, yeah. Need to just zoom in, start with Saul. Do a basic, did I do him with brown? Yeah. So he's kind of wearing the common person brown, and now he's out of his clerical garb and just dressed like an everyday person now, not in his pharisaical garb. Yeah, I don't really know if he would have changed that or not. Just kind of thinking about that right now. I just went over and grabbed that color from the previous panel for some form of continuity, perhaps. Just noticed a problem with this. There's just one little section that she missed right here, which is no big deal. Relock that. And see how I'm coloring down into their heads? Not a big deal. I'm just going to grab that color, paint right back over that. All right. I'm going to do his hair. John Anderson, just learning how you create cool stuff. Hey, thanks, John. And thanks, Tom. I just noticed that you said hi, Tom Weaver, and thanks, John Anderson, for watching. I know John is married to a brilliant artist as well, so it's always nice to see how different artists do what they do, that's for sure. Sorry about that, guys. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. I get engrossed in the painting and all right, let's see if I can match these colors. So this guy had that color for his outfit. Playing, no problem. I need to go to another commitment. No problem, John. Thanks for popping in, man. Just here having a good time. Thanks for stopping by. Boom. Grab that color. So Tom Weaver, I have a question for you. Is this your first time on, or have you been lurking in the past and just not said hi? Because I know you often have my stuff on in the background while you're working. Just curious. Let's see, what color does he have? Just slightly different. kept missing the startup till today. Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad you're here. It's not really something to have on in the background as much as other things I've done, because I'm seriously just working, live streaming my actual process. Like if I wasn't live streaming this right now, I'd be doing it anyway. I just thought, when I started this project, I just thought, well, first of all, I wanted to experiment with live streaming, see how it worked. And I'm always trying to learn new media and its implications for ministry, which is part of my job. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to live stream. And these videos now, I think this is my 8th or 9th one, they now live on YouTube. So it's kind of a nice little chronicle of the project. You can go back and watch and remember different pages, just snapshots along the way. Okay, let's zoom out. All right, so there's my background. So now I've got these generic characters in the foreground, so I'm going to do something that is kind of fun. I take my oh, Sandy, you can't see the others as they chat. That's because they're on Facebook. I'm multicasting this, and some people are watching this on Facebook, and some people are watching it on YouTube. So that's a good point, Sandy. Thanks for bringing that up. I can see both. I'm using what's called, I'm using an app called Restream. And actually I'm actually using OBS Studio to do my actual broadcast. But then I'm sending the stream to Restream, which is an online app. And Restream is where you're able to multicast. And so I am simulcasting between YouTube and Facebook, which is really cool. All right. So that is a quick little trick to do my generic crowd people and just get enough highlighting that they pop out. But now I'm going to do my shading layer. Let's see, multiply against the back color, because these characters are a little bit more complicated than those generic background characters. Again, these are small figures on the page, so I don't have to be super detailed, but just enough to make them not flat and boring. Zoom in a little bit here. I'm just using a soft airbrush that has the size is constant, but the pressure, the opacity is pressure sensitive. So the harder I press down, the more opaque it gets. Which is pretty cool. All right, now I just need to put my clipping mask. Now this layer is the overlay layer, which lets you add light to a layer, but maintain the detail below it. It's just a nice way to put in highlights. And lets it glow just a little bit, which is a pretty quick way to do highlighting. I forgot to shade Saul over here. Come up here to overlay. Zoom out a little bit. I'm going to use hit the generic. With these crowds, I like to use this brush. It's just a tiny bit of texture to it, and I think it's more interesting to look at than the airbrush. All right, now I've got these front characters. I'm going to make one of them have my Sadducee gray. And one of them have the Pharisee black. And then I got to do their beards. And now for the shading layer, clipping mask, multiply, airbrush. Throw some dark shadows under here. I don't know if you noticed that, but my brush froze up. Sometimes that happens, and I have to wiggle my mouse to get my brush to re-engage. Don't know why that happens. And now for the highlight. Do a little textured rim light first. See, when I do it with that texture one, I just think it's a little bolder, especially on the skin. Then I can come in with this soft airbrush and kind of just make it glow a little bit. Now let's look at our panel, and I want to do the same thing that I did with this first panel and make a light box. So I got to choose the pixels of that. Call this one light. Ooh, we're almost to our time. This is perfect timing because I'll just be done when I do this. I'm going to add this as a light. Make that add, bring down the opacity just a little bit. Boom, there it is. Whoops. Okay, what did we get done today? I got panels 1 and 2 done today in our hour together. We're coming up on 3 o'clock. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Appreciate you all joining with me today. Just remember, you can always go to cartoonistbible.com/acts, and this is page 5 of this week's work. It's actually page 15, so that's pretty exciting. For those of you who are with me today for the whole time, I think Sandy Olson gets the marathon award today. Maybe Tom. Oh, Tom just asked, which Mac do you use? Good question. Tom, in my home studio, I use an iMac, 27-inch iMac. And in my studio at the seminary, I have a Mac Studio, which is, it's a box. It's a really nice machine. And then I have a studio display, a 27-inch studio display. And I use a Cintiq 24 on campus. And those are machines that the seminary owns. And then here in my home studio, I'm using the iMac and this Wacom Cintiq 16. So there you go. Thanks for asking. All right. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. And